Calling all pet parents, welcome to Tip the Dish, another show by the Pet Shop Girls, where we're dishing tips on natural pet care.
Tip the dish of the Pet Shop Girls, gonna start the show. Tip the dish of the Pet Shop Girls, watch the chaos grow. Tip the dish, we bring the thrills. Pet Shop Girls is where time stands still.
All right, hey everybody, I'm Sherry.
And I'm Carly.
Welcome to Tip the Dish. Today, we've got an amazing, original trailblazer in the industry, Maria Ringo. With over 35 years experience as the co-founder of Carna4, Maria has redefined what pet nutrition can be by creating the first raw food diet in the 1980s and now crafting a unique air-dried synthetic-free pet food that's as convenient as it is nutritious. With a background in natural rearing, homeopathy, and entrepreneurship, Maria's journey is one of passion, innovation, and unwavering dedication to pet health. Get ready to dive into the fascinating world of Carna4 and learn why whole food nutrition is a game changer for your family. Welcome to the podcast, Maria.
Thanks. My gosh, Sherry, that was very kind. Thanks, Charlie.
Well, kind, but all true.
Aww.
Yeah.
All true. You are a trailblazer and you're still blazing trails because there is not another food on the market that gives us that same scoop and go convenience with all of the same type of raw alternative nutrition. I always tell my customers in store as Carna4 does.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Well, and okay, Sherry,
So, yeah,
I know you were
I'd like-
chomping at the bit.
Yes, I'd like to back up so I used to carry a food called Sojo's, and I don't know if any of our dishers remember that food, but I had no idea that you created it. Could you back us up to the 1980s and tell us how you got started?
So all the way back for you youngins.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So I've been in this industry a long, long time. Back in the 1980s, a friend and I, she was breeding bull mastiffs, and she gifted me one. Or two actually. And I was working at the food co-op. I was also running a homeopathic medical practice for a physician and family nurse practitioner. I wasn't a homeopath at the time, but I was their office manager. I was working in the bar to make the cash. And we decided, because we were crazy people in our 20s, hey, let's create our own dog food because there's nothing good to feed our dogs. My husband likes to say I earned my MBA the hard way because we crafted this raw food based on the teachings of a fabulous herbalist named Juliette de Barraclay-Levy. Hard to spell, hard to pronounce.
Okay.
She's long dead, but I did get a chance to meet her. She was a trailblazing European herbalist who raised Afghan hounds and had created this whole idea of natural diets for dogs. Nobody in the U.S. was doing that at the time.
Right.
Nobody in North America was doing it. So my partner and I were crazy and had nothing else to do. So let's make a food. So we literally mixed whole oats, all organic, right? Whole oats, ground nuts, herbs, ground seeds, mixed it together, packaged it up, and sold it as a little company, a little brand called Sojourner Farms. And the idea was you had to add water and meat. So there was work.
Yeah.
And it was super expensive because it was all really good quality human grade food. And I remember being at the various trade shows, and I was like, she and I were the only flesh and blood women there. Like everybody else was a man. No women, business owners in the industry, very, very few.
Right.
And here we were with our little granola for dogs, right? I did that for 10 years. And, I sold the business 10 years later to a group of investors who then changed the name to Sojo's, refined the recipe, added some air drying to it. They changed it quite a bit. but they named it Sojo's, which was the name of the treat that I had been making. So my Sojourner Farms made Sojourner Farms dog food, cat food, supplements, and a treat called Sojo's, which was an organic baked dog biscuit. And they took the name Sojo's and they liked it for the whole line. And that's how Sojo's got launched. And then, of course, they sold to Wellness, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. But yeah, and I started, way back then. We even had a cotton underwear for female dogs because so many people spay their females too young before they've had a few cycles, right?
I agree. Yes.
We were all into just the natural raising of animals. And so we created the dog panty. It was called Seasonals, which is still around to this day. I spun that off to someone else who I think she still makes the Seasonals herself. And then the treats and the dog food. And it was hard going. I mean, I look back now and I go, yeah, it makes sense now. If you look at it, I mean, Carly, look how many brands you are able to sell in your store that provide alternatives. There was nothing back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Like the latest, greatest was Nutro. Woohoo! It was like, it was so dull and boring and there was no interest in nutrition, it seemed like. And a lot of times when you do stuff like that, let me tell you, it's like beating your head against a wall. People laughed at me. They totally laughed at me. And then one lady in a health food store, she said, Maria, you're 20 years ahead of your time. And she was right.
Yeah.
Because now I look around and I'm like, oh, hallelujah. There's all these alternatives. But back then, man, there was nothing.
Yeah.
There was nothing. Everybody thought we were a big fat joke.
Yeah. Well,
So
and
what-
you know what? I mean, I think anybody who is that futuristic visionary who can see where we should be, but we aren't, is always going to be looked at as, okay, you're a little bit crazy.
I'm used to it.
And I know, right? And this is, I think to
Right,
myself,
Carly? You and me both.
I'm okay with being crazy
Me
because
too.
they'll call you crazy until all of a sudden they see what you can do, and all of a sudden what you're doing is what everybody else is doing, and then they're like, oh, maybe you're not so crazy. You're kind of
That
normal.
brings us full circle to Carna4 because, like Sherry said in her lovely introduction, Carna4 is to us, to Dave and I, just as revolutionary because, okay, there's all these ways you can do natural feeding for your animal, and people are learning it. There's courses, there's all kinds of products now. What about the person that just wants to put food in the bowl?
Yeah.
Come on, let's be honest. It takes time to feed a raw foods diet. It takes a little knowledge or a lot of knowledge, depending on where you are. It's not convenient. And okay, wherever you're at, people, that's where we want to be. So we created something that was like, okay, you want to do it, you want to learn, but while you're learning, here's Carna4.
Yeah.
Right?
Because the furry guy has to eat something. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're traveling. Your animal's sick. Your animal's off her normal feed, and it's a lot of work. And you're watching over these 8 puppies, whatever. You've all these reasons why you need to take back your time and your energy. Just put food in a bowl and know that it's clean and it's safe and it's nutritious. So that's where Dave and I again felt like, all right, 15 years ago, he wanted to start a business. And I'm like, oh, ixnay on the, no. Do you have any idea how hard it is to start a dog food? And he's like, oh no, I could just, because he's been in the industry for 20, 30 years as well.
Yeah.
But in different roles, and I'm like, oh, that's going to be so hard. But he persisted. And okay, so I said to him, if you're going to do a dog food, it has to be better than Sojourner. And there's nothing better than Sojourner. Like, I'm like, come on, He said, no, we'll figure this out. And we did. And we're really proud of it. So again, we think in 10 years, this is the future of pet food. If you're going to buy a bag that you can just pour into the bowl, it has to be this good.
Yep.
But we're not there yet. We're the only ones.
Yes.
So let's talk about like why this food is different and yeah, it's baked, not extruded, right? And it's synthetic free. But what explain to our listeners what the deal is.
Here's the biggest difference. Synthetic free means only whole food. There are other brands out there that say that it's synthetic free, but they have added non-food to the recipe to make the mineral content high enough, let's just say as an example. Carna4 is literally only whole food that your grandmother would recognize.
Yep.
No chemicals, no vitamin premix. That's a big deal. If you're educated about pet food, you understand that. But for people, the vast majority of people that aren't educated, they don't get all this long list of chemicals that are vitamins. Those are chemicals. Those are lab-made foodstuffs.
Yep.
Your
Right,
animal
and
body does not recognize them.
Right.
Right. So they're not, correct me if I'm wrong, but the synthetic vitamin pack that is put into most pet foods, it's not going to harm the animal, but they're not really, it's not bioavailable. They're just going to poop it out, right?
Except after a while, when the animal's body does not get the nutrition it needs because it just keeps pooping out these foodstuffs, it triggers inflammation because the body is looking for the nutrients and it can't find them.
Yeah.
So what I like to is the visual of a hamster wheel. The body is looking and looking and running on what your animal can survive for a while. You're right. Your animal can survive for a while. After a while, it starts to have chronic inflammation. It starts to have organ malfunction. It starts to have problems that it cannot resolve because it has no bioavailable nutrition coming in, which is why we have such an explosion of chronic illness in dogs and cats and other animals that we feed with commercial diets.
Yep.
It's not rocket science. It's just nutrition. So yes, your animal will see, let's just put it this way. I love getting into the sort of biochemistry stuff. It's my time as a teacher is behind me, but it was so much fun. Your animal eats this substance. It's the immune system, the body, the digestive system is looking for the nutrition. It's like, oh, where is it? Where is that? I don't recognize that. I don't recognize that. Okay, send that to the fat. That is going to become then poison eventually because it's just going to sit in the fat stores where it can't go anywhere. Then we're going to send this to the kidneys and this is going to just sort of sit in the gut. Like the body has to store this stuff and then it will excrete it eventually. How long is it going to store it before it gets the nutrition that it needs to metabolize it and get it out? There are so many lines of problems that begin. So for the first couple of months or years, you might say, oh, this is fine. My dog's fine. You know, their poop is good and they seem to be okay. After 6 months, after 8 months, depending on the health or the age of your animal, you're starting to say, their energy's not the same. Whoo, gosh, they're pretty gassy. Oh, look at the itching. There's all these problems that start to come out. Functional issues like dry skin, which causes itching, paw licking, all centered in the gut. So the body is saying, give me nutrition. Okay, I'm storing all this non-food stuff that I don't recognize. It's part of the immune system's job. Don't recognize that. Okay, get it out, store it, excrete it. Where does the real nutrition come from?
Right.
Pretty soon. If the nutrition does not arrive, you now have an animal with chronic issues, inflammation. Now you've got big issues that start to blow up. Now your dog is lame. Now your dog is really itchy and scratchy and you can't figure out what the heck's going on. Now you've got diabetes, you've got cancer, you've got all kinds of neurological issues. I've treated them all. I mean, I was a homeopath in private practice for 10 years and I treated my patients' pets and it was an explosion of this kind of stuff. And we would trace it back oftentimes to what are you feeding? Let's see if we can get a more natural whole food source of nutrition in your animal and without a word of a lie, it always made a huge improvement. And that would wake the person up and go, oh, so this list of non-food stuff, that's what I'm going to call it, because people tune out when you say chemicals because they're like, oh, there's no chemicals in this. It says all natural. Look at the vitamin pack. Look at the ingredients. Is it full of meals? Is it extruded, which means that it's been killed?
Yeah.
Anything that went in there is subjected to high heat, high pressure, high acidity. There's nothing left. So then they add a vitamin pack to make it nutritious.
Yes.
And all that nutrition is being stored in the fat or in the kidneys or in the gut. Right? See what I'm saying?
Just so our dishers know, most kibbles on the market that you can find in your typical store are going to be extruded. And what I like to call them
all
is
kibble. All kibble. That's what makes it kibble.
Except for your baked ones, and then you
Carna4 is not kibble.
Stuff.
Carna4 is not kibble.
Okay. But I like to call kibble a burnt meat cookie because they burn out all of the nutrition and then they have to add it back in, but it's not it's so ultra processed. It's awful.
That's
So,
funny, a burnt meat cookie, because oftentimes when we go live every Friday, and whenever I'm talking about kibble, I refer to it as the pellets of ick.
no, it's a we call it burnt meat cookies.
Well,
That's
okay.
awesome.
And so speaking of that, when I'm in the store and I'm talking to my customers about Carna4, and I am very, very clear that we are not talking about a kibble here. We are talking about an air-baked whole food nugget. And then I explain to them why it's a whole food nugget. But I would like you to help us understand kind of the difference in Carna4, how it's processed, and then the nutrition that it offers. We kind of talked about the nutrition not using synthetics, but as a whole food nugget, you because I know what I say. I know what I say to everybody, but I want to hear what you say to everybody.
So the difference between a whole food nugget, which as far as I know on the market is just Carna4, and other kibbles, extruded, baked, it doesn't really matter. What it goes back to is, what did you use to make that pellet, nugget, kibble, whatever you want to call it, right? And how did you get it? So just let's talk about the ingredients for a sec. Whole food is exactly that. It is whole food. It is not food fractions or, like we said, synthetics, chemicals. It is not meals. It is meat. It is whole brown rice for some of ours. Some of ours are grain-free and some of them have whole brown rice. It is vegetables, right? It is organic ground sprouted seeds, right? Literally, if you look at any of the ingredient panels on any of our recipes, there's like maybe 8 to 10 ingredients. Everything your grandmother would recognize as a food. We then mix it, mash it together, and form it into little nuggets on a conveyor belt, just like making cookies, right? Which is why we add that whole brown rice to some of our recipes, just to kind of keep it whole. And it goes down a conveyor belt. It's baked for 4 minutes, just enough to kill the pathogens. And then it's long air dried on a long conveyor belt, goes round and round and round, a cool air dry to take the moisture out. So now what you have is a nugget of quick baked, long cool air dried food. It is just whole food. Yeah, it's very convenient. It's very shelf stable. Is it the ideal food everyone should eat all the time? No, not all the time every day. Let's add fresh food. Let's get some variety into our diets. But this is a fabulous main diet for anybody that has kids, jobs, stress, come on, a life.
Yeah.
That's the ingredients part. And then the processing part is just what I described. It is very, very different from extruded. We don't apply high heat. We don't apply pressure. And we don't apply acids and other things to break down beaks and feathers, because there is none.
And I think another key difference, and what I talk to customers about, is when we extrude a kibble, because we have cooked the literal crap out of everything, and our animals need fat, we need to spray fat on the kibble afterwards.
Yep.
We don't spray Carna4 with fat. Which
what
is,
happens when you do that? That fat goes rancid so fast.
Yes.
Yeah.
And where does the fat come from? It's rendered, like, come on. Like it's a
Restaurant
nightmare.
grease. Yeah.
Yep. And so you spray, a lot of companies, they will spray the fat on the outside, which makes it palatable, because dogs are like, ooh, that smells good, right? They'll get into the garbage, right? Dogs will do that. They'll eat anything. So, but that fat is sprayed on. Really, that's your source of fat? Our source of fat is the sprouted seeds.
I was going to ask about the sprouted seeds. So first of all, I mean, I think we all know that there's nutrition in seeds, but what nutrition does it play for dogs? And how does the sprouted part of it change the nutrition profile?
I could do an entire hour on sprouted. It is You know what I love is that it is ancient technology that is completely available to us today. You don't need a lot of money. You don't need, and it's not rocket science. All you need is your seed and some water and sprouting. Okay, I like to tell the story of the oak tree. So a big giant oak tree grows from the little baby acorn. How does it grow? How does it know to grow from this little acorn to this giant 150-foot tall oak tree? The genetic information for that oak tree is contained in the acorn. The acorn gets dropped on the ground and it gets sprouted. It gets rained on, a little bit of soil, maybe some bird poop, and it sprouts. And then that little sprout becomes a tree. And all the genetic information to make that oak tree is contained in the acorn. When we sprout a seed, we break the phytic acid shell that holds the information, the nutrition in the seed. For example, the lentil seed that we sprout has billions of CFUs of native probiotics, which means we don't add probiotics to it. It comes with them because it needs that plant. If it were to grow into a lentil plant or whatever, it needs those probiotics to grow and thrive. So when you have a seed and you sprout it, all that nutrition is released and is then bioavailable to the digestive system. Any human, any mammal can digest that seed so much more effectively when it's sprouted. So
I would think for a dog with a shorter digestive tract, they would definitely need that in order for it to be bioavailable.
It's a boon. It's an amazing superfood. And when we stumbled upon this, when we were researching, how are we going to add fats without spraying them on? We don't want to use safflower oil, all this stuff. Like, oh my God, we discovered sprouted seeds. We decided not only to add them to our pet food, but to package them up separately as Fluorophore. And as Carly knows, that's one of our best-selling products because you know what? I prescribe it to my patients. Like, it is beautiful food. It is raw, organic, sprouted seeds. That's all it is. And we mix them and we sprout them and we put it in an 18-ounce package. Put that in your smoothie in the morning. It'll reorient your own digestive system. As you know, at the shows, that's what I do. I make smoothies with the Fluorophore. It's the only thing I eat when I do those doggone trade shows.
Yeah.
So
I do. And sorry, and I regularly tell my customers this when I start to talk them because the ground organic sprouted seeds provide us with a source of prebiotics, probiotics, digestive enzymes, and a fantastic source of fiber. They are probably the healthiest things that I actually eat. And I do put them in my own smoothies. I put them in Zahner's dish. They can help balance a raw food diet. They can help kitties who are having hairballs. They can help with digestive issues. So whether we're constipated or if we've got diarrhea, we can add some sprouted seeds. Like, they are amazing, an amazing product. And that's also how we preserve carnivore. So we don't have to use those greebly fats that go rancid very quickly. And that's why, so a bag of kibble, I'm always telling my customers in store, you open this bag of kibble, you want to be able to feed it within 28 days, 14 ideally, but 28 days. You open a bag of carnivore because we don't spray fat on it and there's nothing to go rancid. You can actually use that bag of carnivore for 2 years. And not that anybody is probably going to hang on to a bag for 2 years. However, no, but the person who regularly feeds a raw food and then occasionally needs to travel, or they're going out to the lake or they're going camping with their furry guy and they don't have enough freezer space to take everybody's food, furry guy can move to his carnivore for the week of camping and then go back to his raw food when he gets home.
And there's not a huge transition issue for their gut, especially if you add some Fluorophore to it. Such a great stool corrector, gut corrector. Well, I was talking earlier about the itchy paw, the itchy skin and the paw licking and all this stuff. This all stems from the digestive tract. So some Fluorophore mixed in with whatever you're feeding, whether it's carnivore or something else, just some extra Fluorophore, a tablespoon a day, I usually tell people, will help correct the gut. So that now the paw licking thing, it will be much better. We have a lot of customers that talk to me about like scooting and stuff that you might not think is really about the diet or about the gut inconsistencies, but it is. And what have you got to lose with fluorophore? I mean, it's not expensive and it's very low tech.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's something that it's a gift to us from centuries of low tech working wisdom women, right? Who figured out, oh, that seed got wet and it sprouted and I ate it and I feel great on a seed, something like that. And that's what so going back to what makes Carna4 different, the processing, the ingredients, the ground organic sprouted seeds, and they're always USDA organic, high quality, all human grade, of course. And it's so effective.
Yeah.
Because, Carly, you were asking and Sherry too, we're all talking about what makes it different, right? What are the subtle differences that add up to one big difference? There's a big difference between native probiotics and lab-made probiotics.
Mm-hmm.
And did you know AFCO does not allow us to state the probiotics that we know we have because we test it in our products because we do not add them. You can only list the products that you add. So I can list ground sprouted seeds, but I can't list, and here's what they contain, like I do in the guaranteed analysis.
Right.
Like I can't put it in the guaranteed analysis. I can't. AFCO won't let me. So
That's awful.
I know. And there's people trying to change that. And then there's a whole other universe of people trying to keep things the same.
Yes.
Hey, let's go to an AFCO meeting. Do you want to go? We should all go.
Oh my God. I would probably, my head would explode.
Yep. I'm not paying $500, so I can't ask questions.
Right.
Okay,
right?
so that will be our next project, Maria. We're just going to we're going to start a new association to regulate pet food, one that actually gives a crap about the animal's health.
Well, that would be novel, and good luck because there's significant forces at work against us with that. And, not to get all tin hat, but there's entrenched industries that don't want you doing this stuff. And they would like you to think that probiotics that are raised in a lab, nothing wrong with it. Like you said, Sherry, your dog just poops them out. Nothing, it is not harmful, but it's not helpful because they're weenies. They have not lived in the wild. They have no idea. And all of a sudden they're getting the heat and acidity of the gut. And they're going, oh my God. And 99% of them die before they ever hit the digestive tract. Mm-hmm. Native probiotics, in other words, probiotics that were raised in nature. They come from a seed. They're not added to the seed. They come from the seed. They're born in nature, are hardy because they've had to fight to survive.
Yes.
And they survive it. And we know this because we have shelf tested our products from the beginning, and especially the probiotics. We're trying to figure out, how do these suckers survive? Because everybody says heat kills them, but they're not dead. If you look at a bag of Carna4, it looks like we vacuum pack it. We don't. You know why it looks vacuum packed? Why all the air is sucked out? That's the probiotics in there eating the oxygen. That's why our bags look like bricks. Because they're eating the oxygen in there. And if you get a bag that isn't that way, it's because there's a pinhole somewhere in it, somewhere in transit. All it takes is a pinhole. It lets air in, it plates back up. But the probiotics are alive and they're sucking up all the oxygen in the bag. So we know they survive because they're native. You can't do the same thing. And there are lots of companies over the last 15 years that are like, oh, probiotics are the thing. Let's add them. And they add, lab-made probiotics, the kind you buy for $60, $70 a bottle in the health food store. Don't waste your money. Eat the fluorophore. Eat fermented vegetables. Get your native probiotics.
Yes.
That will cure you way better.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say these other probiotics, they're not harmful. I'm not trying to say they're going to hurt you.
Just not as effective.
Why pay the money? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Eat the whole food, right? That's just a really interesting point. I think because I'm so interested in nutrition, I think that's an interesting point.
Yeah.
The native probiotics versus if you see it listed on the label as, contains, then they added it and it's lab made. So, okay.
Right.
All right.
So that's a good little tip
yeah.
to look for that. Yeah, because okay. Anyways, you had a question.
Well,
Sherry.
yeah. Well, we talk a lot about protein and carb ratios, and you know the goal is you want a high protein, low carb diet. How does this food stack up in that respect?
Yeah, our food, the carbs in our food come from the sprouted seeds. Okay. So we are, I don't really look at, and I'm not up on what anybody
It's
else is
38%. It's
There-
38%. I know this because
Thank you.
it is a grade A food. Otherwise, it wouldn't be in my store. So,
Right. So
Yeah.
Carly would know better than me where it stacks up against other products, but we do not add simple carbs. There's not a single simple carb. And there's another thing. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like the more you delve into it, the more you go, oh my God, such differences. Native probiotics versus lab made, simple carbs versus complex
starch.
carbs.
Yeah.
And complex carbs break down a lot more slowly. They are our carnivore, all of our recipes are low glycemic. Even though the carbs are listed at 38, it's not because, just read the ingredients, not because there's any wheat, not because there's any refined anything. There's whole brown rice in some of our recipes. There's vegetables in all of our recipes, and there's ground sprouted seeds. And that is what makes up all the carb content. It's
So
not because we've added
for our
white rice.
listeners, define simple versus complex carb.
Simple. So, to answer your question about carbs, simple carbs break down quickly into simple sugars. So they add glucose to the bloodstream very quickly. This can be a problem it's a problem for a lot of humans. It can be a problem for dogs and cats, other mammals too, because you need to be able to use that energy, right? You need to be able to break down that energy more slowly so your insulin doesn't rise, so you don't have a real imbalance in your blood sugar. These can cause chronic blood sugar problems. And the more I read about the pancreas, the more impressed I am with the role of that organ. I swear, in Alzheimer's. Anyway, that's a whole nother podcast. But I know I could go off into all kinds of tangents, as Carly knows. Complex carbs take longer to break down. And complex carbs are like whole brown rice versus a simpler carb, which is white rice. Like, to be very clear about it, right? White rice will break down faster, which can be a problem. Complex carbs, generally speaking, have more minerals because look at whole brown rice. It's got minerals in the shell, the outer shell, that gets shucked off when you make white rice. So when you're eating the complex carb, it's a slower digestion. The body has much more time to metabolize the nutrients. It doesn't raise the blood sugar so quickly. We all need to do that. We all need to look at complex carbs. And like I said, the more I read about the explosion of diabetes in our culture, it's incredible to me. And how the pancreas is so affected by everything. And there's this link now between all kinds of neurological issues in the pancreas. And anyway, so interesting.
Well,
Complex carbs are what you want.
Especially the pancreas of dogs and cats who are not designed to eat a carb heavy diet in the first place because they don't produce amylase as much as we do, because we are meant to chew our food and actually eat carbs. They aren't. So we oftentimes, I'll tell you honestly, Maria, I don't know if you and I have ever discussed this, but when a customer walks into my store and I'm like, and what is Fluffy eating? Oh, he has to eat a special vet diet. And I'm like, why is that? And they tell me, he threw up once, or he has pancreatitis, or he has diabetes. I move them to Carna4 every single time. Every single time. I'm like, first of all, you're going to pay less for your bag of Carna4. And you're going to get whole food nutrition, a food that your dog will actually enjoy eating, something, because oftentimes these people are coming in saying, my dog won't eat his prescription food. We have to throw chunks of chicken or chunks of cheese on there. And I tell them every single time, if you put a bunch of cheese on kale, that will not make me eat the kale. I'm just going to pick the cheese off. So stop trying to trick your dog into eating a food that they do not like. Let's find them a food that they do like and that actually nourishes the body. Yeah. So, okay. We've got 6 different protein options. We've got duck, chicken, lamb, fish, goat, and venison, and fish. I said fish twice, didn't I? Did I say all 6 that quickly?
You did say all 6.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
Got it.
What was the thought process behind choosing these particular proteins?
Well, that's a very interesting business question because we get asked a lot, well, can you do this protein or that protein? A lot of people have been asking us to do novel proteins like kangaroo or rattlesnake.
Oh,
The reason I know. Well, okay, Carly, and Sherry, this too. So many people come with complaints that their animal is allergic to a
Yes.
certain protein.
Yes.
Okay, that's another interesting story, and it
Yeah.
all has to do with processing.
yep.
We decided to work with proteins that we could get good supply consistently.
Okay.
I'm never going to do rattlesnake,
Yeah.
folks. I'm never going to do rabbit because I can't get a trusted, consistent supply.
Okay.
And I'm not going to, this is also why we don't put organic meat in. And that's an interesting issue because I cannot get a consistent, high quality supply. And if you know the way organic meat is processed, like the organic meats, that's a whole nother podcast, but the pet guy comes to the human grade factory to pick up the organic scraps to make into dog food. But that there is so much demand for organic meat now for the human grocery stores and restaurants that what is left for the pet trade is very small, inconsistent, and it's been sitting in a bucket phosphorylating for a week before the pet guy comes to pick it up to put it into the organic pet food.
Right.
So we don't want that. We want fresh meat from human grade sources, from farms. We have to have a consistent supply. Thus, we're not going to do novel proteins that I can't count on that.
Right.
That's how we chose it.
Do you think that, a lot of people think that their dogs or cats are allergic to chicken? Chicken is the big culprit. Do you think that it's mostly because of processing?
Yep. I do think that it's because of processing. And I know this because in the years that we've been doing chicken Carna4, we have turned a lot of people onto it who have said, oh, my dog can't do chicken. I'm like, you know what? Try whole food chicken and you might find a difference. And they come back to me time and again. I go, oh my God, dog's doing great. In fact, dog's doing better.
Yeah.
Because what happens, it's part of that whole discussion we had about synthetics. So let's go back to biochemistry. If the animal is eating foods that have been so adulterated that it no longer recognizes it as food,
Yep.
the protein source is going to provoke a reaction the next time or the third time or the fourth time. Somewhere along the line, that dog's going to go, that immune system of that dog's going to say, nope, can't do this anymore. And it happens to be a chicken variety pet food. And you're going to change to beef, then lamb and rice, then whatever. And your animal's going to do okay for a while. And then they're going to start reacting. And then you're going to look for the next novel protein. This is why I get asked to do rattlesnake or kangaroo or some ridiculous thing. So it's actually in the processing. And the processing can change that protein. If you're eating food fractions, if you're not eating a whole food protein, if you're eating food fraction protein, like I can't even remember the names of it because we don't use them. So it's like soy protein isolate. That is not a food that your immune system, and I'm saying you, meaning your dog, us, all of us,
Right.
grandma, everybody, that is not a food that your immune system recognizes. So it's going to throw up an immune reaction over and over saying, no, stop. This is not good for me. So now you're going to come to the vet or to Carly or to you, and you're going to say, dog can't eat chicken because every time I introduce chicken, they seem to do. Yes, because your dog is now sensitized to that chicken that is commonly used. It's a very inexpensive protein. It's easily farmed in so many bioregions. Chickens grow everywhere. So it's very common pet food ingredient. It is almost always heavily processed. So if you take just raw chicken and try to feed that to your animal, you may or may not get a reaction, but you probably won't. There's very rare, it's like 1% to 2% of animals actually have a true allergy. I mean, genetics are real, right? And some animals just have an allergy to something and you can switch that protein up. But most of the time, it's actually an immune system reaction to a diet, a consistent diet of overprocessed foods, chemical foodstuffs, etc. And when you segue your animal off of that, healing takes time, just like screwing it up takes time, right? Healing takes time. So when you start fresh, you have Flora4, you have your ground sprouted seeds, which, like Carly said, they have the prebiotics, the fiber, vitamins and minerals, enzymes, everything. You add that to whatever you're feeding. You get the dog or the cat or the mouse, whatever, the human, the husband, whatever, off of the crappy diet, little by little, completely restoring the gut with fermented and sprouted foods the whole time. You can land at somebody that can eat chicken because their immune system has calmed right down. It's not constantly being provoked.
Yes.
You know, I have a lot of friends, family, and patients that are gluten intolerant.
Mm-hmm.
Only a small percentage of them are actually celiac. Most of them have destroyed their gut through stress, poor diet, drugs. And it takes time to heal that gut. And once they heal the gut, they can eat it.
Yeah.
And it does take time. As long as it takes to screw up your gut, it's going to take that much time or maybe even more to heal it. Dogs have a much shorter gut, intestinal length than we do. It's a lot faster. They get into the garbage, they get sick right away. They're good to go in 2 days usually.
Yeah.
We get food poisoning for a week, right? So their systems are different. But it takes time to restore it. Most people I talk to say, yep, okay, it wasn't so much chicken as it was processed chicken.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I tell customers that all the time when they come in. And of course, I always ask, before we give any treats or if we're looking at a new food, does Fluffy have any intolerances, sensitivities, allergies? Oh, yeah, chicken. Have you ever tried feeding just regular unprocessed chicken that you would eat? Yeah. What happens? Well, he's okay with that. That's right. Because it's not the chicken, it's the processing.
99% of the time, that's the case.
Yeah.
And all of these things that we're discussing, I want to string a common thread. You know what it is? These things take thoughtfulness and time.
Mm-hmm.
And as a culture, I think we don't give what we eat and what we feed our families, which includes our furries, thoughtfulness and time often enough. And I think as a culture, we want to take a pill and get better. We want to switch a food and get better. We don't really want to take the time to actually go through the biochemistry of it all and think about, well, why is my dog reacting to all this? What is in her environment?
Yes.
It's not always the food, folks.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the grass
Yeah.
that your neighbor is spraying. Sometimes it's the incredible stress in your household, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've been a holistic medical practitioner for so long. At the same time that I started Sojourner, I started studying homeopathy. And I actually did go to the homeopathic medical school here in Toronto, 20 years ago. And became a practitioner and a faculty member. So, I mean, nutrition has been my whole life. And I've always been laughed at or castigated because of my whole thing is like, guys, think about it. And are there easy solutions to some problems? Yes. Most problems, especially when it comes to digestion and immune problems and chronic inflammation, it's not an easy fix. It's not just try this,
Right.
But then there are tools that we have like Flora4, which is a gift from God. I swear it is such an easy, inexpensive, low tech thing to do to help that dog that is allergic to chicken or maybe not. Just let's orient the gut the proper way and then let's see what he's really allergic to, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It takes thoughtfulness. It takes some time. And that's never popular.
Yeah.
Well, not with mass production. And that was kind of where I was thinking. One thing that we say to our customers all the time, Sherry and I talk about it on the show all the time, is that we need to purchase our pets' food from manufacturers that we trust.
Mm-hmm.
And in my opinion, the big pet food manufacturers are not people that we can trust. They are putting their profits above our pets.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that our independent manufacturers come from a place of something happened to an animal in their life and they thought there's a better way to do this.
Yep.
So Carna4 is an independently owned, family
Yep.
ran business.
Me and Dave.
Exactly. And so how do you think, being that independent, small, family owned company, how do you think that influences the decisions that you make around your product?
Well, I mean, it influences everything. My photos on the back of the bag. We have a strong, proud sense of ownership as a family business. We have a small team, as you know, Carly. I think you've met every single person that works for me. There's about 8 of us now. We know our suppliers. We know we have our network of retailers, big retailers, small retailers, distributors all around the world. I know you guys, right? You know me. People reach out to me. That's the beauty of having a small family business, is that we started that way. And like you said, I mean, I couldn't find a good food for my bull mastiff. And I was, a granola muncher co-op working chick that wanted to create her own brand. Crazy, had no money, no idea what I was doing, but I learned and learned and learned and listened and learned. And here I am.
Yeah.
Also still a rebel, still talking about thoughtfulness and time and learning and, which are not popular ideas. But I can say those things now because I'm like the grandma of you all. I'm 60.
Well, and I will also note too that Carna4 is one of our beloved Canadian-made brands in our store, because we love when an innovative company like Carna4 steps up in the Canadian market and makes a food that is known not only across North America, but worldwide, because we talk about it on our TikTok all the time. And we've got pet parents all over the world saying, how can I get Carna4?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's, I wanted to thank you, Maria. I know that you are a very busy lady, and I appreciate that you took some time to spend with us to help our listeners understand more about the uniqueness and the innovativeness behind Carna4. I tell my customers all the time, if you want to feed a dry food, it's got to be one of the best. And Carna4 is by all means one of the best of the best. So
we're really grateful to you, Carly. You're the most thoughtful retailer, and you think and you ask good questions. Oh, I wish everybody was like you, honestly.
No, and
see, Sherry, you could learn a lot from me.
I am so happy to have met you. This has been very enlightening, and I hope to see what you do in the future. Like, can you tell us anything? Can you give us any tidbits on what may be on the horizon?
I've got some new irons in the fire. I'm
Oh.
always looking for new ways to get nutrition into resistant hands.
Yeah.
That is my goal. I would like to see that this is the kind of, I just want whole food nutrition to be the norm.
Yes.
And so I'm working on a few projects, and we're going to bring our treats back.
Nice.
And in a new way. I think you're going to like it. And some new proteins on the horizon. And yeah, we're Dave and I are always cooking. Like,
just not rattlesnake.
No. Where am I going to get enough rattlesnake?
Yeah, nobody wants snake.
Go to your store, Carly. Come on.
No.
That's silly. No, I want to make whole food nutrition possible and accessible for everyone. And that's our goal.
So how can our dishers, if they want to learn more about Carna4 or you, how can they connect?
Go to our website, carna4.com. There's so much information. There's ways to reach out to us. Our customer service line is on there anytime. I think we do a pretty good job right now of answering a lot of questions on the website.
Yeah.
We're constantly revising it. And actually right now we're undergoing a big transformation. So in another month or so, you're going to see it look brand new and different and wonderful. And I hope you like it.
There we go.
So we're working on that behind the scenes. But in the meantime, there's tons of information on how to feed an animal a natural diet, how to deal with the problems, the pitfalls, the frustrations, the nutrition. There's far more information on the nutrition of all of our recipes on our website than we could possibly fit on a bag.
Yeah.
So if anybody has a question, if they just peruse the website, they'll probably find what they need.
Awesome.
And that is, for anybody looking, it is Carna4, CARNA, the number 4.com.
Right.
So yeah, check them out, because this is, I always say this too. It's not really a cult, but it's kind of cultish. When people start feeding Carna4, they don't want to change. They see the improvements in their animals. They see how much their dog, all of a sudden, who was kind of like, ugh, I'll eat this so I don't die, go to, oh my God, I can't wait for supper time. And and then they don't want anything else. Not once they've once you go Carna4, you never go back.
I love it. And I hope that we will get lots and lots more companies doing the kind of whole food nutrition we're doing. I would love nothing better.
I agree.
I agree too.
Thank you, ladies, so much.
Well, thank you very much, Miss Maria. It was a pleasure
welcome.
speaking with you as always. And we look forward to seeing all of the new cool things that Carna4 is going to do.
Yeah, it's coming.
Perfect. Until next time, dishers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, that's a wrap, dishers.
Don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe.
Go ahead, hit all the buttons.
You know you want to.
Keep coming back for the best bites of advice for you and your pets. Tip the dish.